name's Jen. I like talking about all things knitting and sewing, and it's a bit of a different one today because it is high time we had a celebration. It is not only a very belated celebration of reaching a milestone, getting 2,000 of you subscribing to the channel, which I'm so grateful for. Thank you. You are all wonderful, lovely, sewy, knitty people. But also, YouTube tells me it's my 1 year anniversary of posting my first YouTube video. I honestly just started it for a bit of fun to see what happened, and apparently people like watching me waffle on about things, which is rather nice. Anyway, in order to celebrate, I decided some of you might want to get to know me a little bit better. I know it can sort of feel a little bit vague when you're watching people on YouTube, because you don't really know them, do you? So I asked if there was anything that people wanted to ask me. There were lots of sewing related questions and a couple of other bits. So I thought I'd answer those because you seem interested. And I've got a little bit of a giveaway that I'd like to do later on. So keep watching, watch out for that. Without further ado, let's get on with it. I have my laptop here where I have pulled to the questions that I got from my last video and post I did asking if anybody had any questions for me. So I'm going to go through them now. Let's start with a proper getting to know you question. Can you give us an idea of what part of the country you live in? Well, I live in Dorset, county of Dorset, which for the non-British viewers is a county on the south coast of the UK, pretty much right in the middle of the south coast, next to the English Channel, and I live just near to Forest, a little bit away from the sea. Used to live really near the sea, but a little bit further inland now. I have lived here for the last 18 years. And it was 18 years ago I met my husband when I came down here to study, and met him and didn't want to leave because I knew he was the one I was going to marry. So 18 years living down here, love it, got lots of friends here now, really happy. I've got family all over the place, however. I actually was born and raised in Derbyshire in the Midlands, so if you've ever detected a slight Midland or Northern twang to my accent, that's why. Following on from that question, there was another one which kind of relates to where I live. Where do you buy your fabrics if you do buy new stuff? Do you have stores or markets close, or do you mainly buy online? If so, do you buy as seen or do you get samples first? So many questions there. Obviously sewing related because it relates to fabrics, but this is similar for when I'm buying knitting supplies as well, to be honest. There are local shops that sell fabrics. There is one in the town just over from us, 3 or 4 miles away, which is kind of one of those very small, very crowded, old school, old-fashioned sort of fabric shops that sells lots of quilting supplies, lots of things that would be good for crafting and things like that. Tends to lean a bit older, the population in the area that I live in, and I think there's a lot of kind of old-fashioned crafters that are looking for that sort of thing. It's a shop that's been there decades, I believe. Very traditional. I mainly would go there if I was looking for like a particular coloured thread or ribbon or haberdashery type items. I haven't often found fabrics in there that are the sorts of things that I like using. And that's similar to other fabric shops in the area. They're either full of kind of quilting fabrics, that kind of thing, or they're slightly lower quality fabrics than what I'm looking for to make garments out of. The exception, I think, would be that being in Dorset, I am not that far from Beyond the Pink Door, the shop that lovely Andrea off of YouTube runs. Used to be over in Ireland, now she's moved to Dorset, and I'd say her shop is about an hour away driving from me. I have not been to it yet. I am intending to go. I would like to go and have a look around, and I would like to meet Andrea. And I think that looks like the sort of place that I might buy garment fabrics from. Similar with the yarn shops, really. A lot of the local ones they sell a lot of the kind of big brand mass produced type stuff, but particularly because I don't generally buy wool, there's not much that I find that exciting. It's difficult to find something inspiring, so I mainly buy online, and most of my fabrics I buy online, to be honest. Places online that I usually get things are Minerva.com, which obviously is big commercial brand now. It was a lot smaller when I was first sewing, and it's nice to see that the demand has been there, that the business has grown so much, and I think they ship worldwide now. If you're really in a pickle and you just need to find something, usually Minerva has it. They've got a huge selection on there, including their own produced fabrics now, which actually I've found to be quite good quality. I tend to try and go for the Awaker-Tex, is that how you say it? The kind of more environmentally friendly ones. I do like looking out for genuine dead stock fabrics also, so New Craft House, places like that. I particularly like having a browse on. And I get quite a lot from Dalston Mills, because everything I've had from there seems to be really good quality and decent prices. So do quite like having a virtual online rummage around their site. They tend to stock a lot of the sorts of things that I would buy. Really nice denims I've had from them before. So they're kind of my go-to places, but increasingly I do go and shop charity shops. In the town where the little old-fashioned fabric shop is, there's actually loads of really good charity shops that you can find really nice quality clothing and occasionally some fabrics. Bought a set of 5 cotton tablecloths from one of them once for about a tenner, and it's enough to make, I think, a maxi dress from. So I do, every 6 months or so, I like to have a trawl around all the charity shops and just see what I can find. You can't go with anything specific in mind, but it's quite good for finding clothes that need a bit of love and need upcycling, or fabrics or supplies. Even there's one that even has loads of like sewing and knitting patterns and things. So I do like to get stuff like that. With regards to your question about do you buy as seen or do you get samples first? Increasingly these days, particularly when I'm looking for a fabric that might be a bit more expensive or something for a special occasion, or something that I'm going to have to buy many meters of and it's going to get pricey, I do like it if an online site allows me to buy a sample, because then I can see what the weight of it is, I can see whether I'm going to need to line it, for instance. I do really value being able to get a sample, even if I have to pay a small amount to get that sample sent. That's better than paying 50 quid plus for a big long length of fabric and it not being the right thing. So increasingly these days, I do like to get samples before I buy bigger lengths of fabric. Next question. How are you getting on with your stash busting, and is Stash Hub helping? Well, if you'd like to see how I'm getting on with my stash busting, go back to the video that came out a couple of weeks ago before this one, and I kind of bared all with the stash busting I've been doing and also the naughty fabric buying that I'd also been getting up to. I'd say overall though, especially after reading the comments on that video when people said I was being a bit hard on myself, I would say stash busting is still going on. It's going quite well. And actually, I was digging some fabric out because I'm planning a new project, and had a look at the cupboard, and it is definitely emptier than when I started. So I think we're making slow progress. I think in the new year we might be getting to a point where I've got the buying under control enough that I can shop mainly from the stash and keep using up stuff that I've got, with the occasional supplementation of new things that I buy, and will still be in a net downhill slope and still reducing the stash rather than being on a complete buying ban. I'm hoping I can do that and stay controlled enough for it to not get wildly out of control again. Stash Hub is definitely helping with the whole endeavour. I find it really useful for planning out the project. It has also helped to keep my stash tidier, because when I'm thinking about projects and I might be like trying to mix fabrics together and things, I'm not going to the cupboard and kind of rooting through it and throwing stuff out and then shoving it all back in. I'm doing it within the Stash Hub app on my phone, so I can do that when I'm not even near the cupboard and I'm not just constantly getting things out, putting them back away, and it's staying way tidy. I haven't actually had to clean it out again since I did my big sort out a few months ago. So that's been really one of the huge benefits. The one caveat I would say is that once you've been through the big, huge mission of cataloguing your stash, whether you're doing it over several sessions or like I did, just spending 2 days doing the whole lot, once it's all catalogued and in there, you do need to keep up with it and keep on top of it in the app, because of course you make a project and then you're maybe left with a small remnant or you're left with just scraps, and though you can change that in the fabric listing on the app to reflect how much of it you've got left or whether it's just scraps left, to make sure that that's still up to date for you so you don't mistakenly think you've still got it. And likewise, if you do buy something new, like I was actually given a load of magazines that had sewing patterns in, and I am yet to go through and catalogue those in the pattern portion of the app. I need to do that before I forget, because otherwise I sort of don't know whether I have them. So I need to keep on top of new things coming in and putting those into the app. So new fabrics, as soon as they come in, I'm taking a photo of them, they're going on the app, just to keep everything up to date. So as long as you're on top of keeping up to date, I'd say it's a really good tool. And for what it costs per year for unlimited listings on there, I think for me, it's been worth it. I've never felt more organised. So thumbs up for Stash Hub. Okay, next question. Is it easier to have a sewing room to motivate yourself? I don't think it's necessary, actually. For many years, when we first moved to this house, I think we've lived here 13, 14 years. For a long time, I would get the sewing machine out and put it on the dining room table. I would do all my cutting out on the dining room table. We've just got a small dining room table in the downstairs of our house. And sometimes when I was working on a project, all the stuff would just stay on it for a few days, and we'd be having TV dinners because all my sewing stuff was out. But I wouldn't say that now I have a dedicated sewing room that I sew more now than I used to. I think you can make it work whatever space and facilities you've got. I did for years. The reason that I ended up turning one of the upstairs rooms in our house into a sewing room is that we realised we had it all set up as a spare bedroom with a nice double bed all made up in there, and it was lovely when we had guests over, and then we realised that that was for maybe 7 to 10 days of the entire year that somebody would actually be properly using that room. And we pay for that room, we pay a mortgage on this house, so we decided we'd better make use and make the most out of all the rooms of our house. And we thought, when we have guests over, for the minimal time that is in our year, we can just sleep downstairs or whatever on a blow-up mattress, and our guests can have our room. So decided to turn it into a sewing room. My husband actually, for a short time, had it as his home office when he was full-time working from home. We then decided to move things around a bit. He moved his office to a downstairs room, like a kind of study room, and the desk that we had built into the sewing room space, that was his work desk with his computer monitors on and everything, turned into my sewing desk. And it's really big and long, so I can have my overlocker and my sewing machine out all the time, which is great. And it's really nice not having to pack them up and get them out again every time. So that is like a huge advantage. I also think one of my best purchases ever for my sewing was getting a dedicated cutting table. Spent a fair amount of money on this, kind of saved up for it, got a really nice one. That is one that folds down so that you can kind of get it out of the way, but I just leave it up most of the time. It's pretty big, and it is on wheels so you can move it around, and it's high enough that it's worktop height rather than table height. One of the things that I found, particularly because I'm tall, but I think anybody has this problem, on a dining table which you're meant to sit at, it's just too low to be doing that kind of work. You want something that's more like counter height, worktop height. So getting a cutting table saved my back from hours and hours of pain cutting on something that was too low, or even trying to cut things out on the floor, which is just the worst to me. I have a lot of like muscle and joint problems and things, and it was just painful, frankly, and it would put me off starting projects because the cutting out is like the first thing. So much easier now that I've got a proper cutting table, and I've got some really big cutting mats on there, so if I want to use a rotary cutter I can, although I generally go with scissors. And I have recently, I haven't tried them yet. I'm a bit nervous because they look crazy and they make so much noise, but I've recently bought some electric scissors to try because I thought that would speed up the process even more. I know everybody has different opinions on it, but cutting out is like the worst bit of a project for me. I get really sore hands, I get sore back. I find it hard standing up for that amount of time. I'm just trying to now just get myself tools and gadgets that make those processes easier. One of the disadvantages, I'd say, for having a dedicated sewing room is that it is a bit too easy to shut the door on it at the end of the day and not tidy up. So it can get, over time, gradually messier and messier and messier. And because you can just be like, no, I'm done for the day, but I'm going to leave all this out because I'm going to be working on it like in a couple of days' time. Shut the door on it and it's like a bomb's hit it in there because it's not affecting the rest of the house. And then it gets really out of control. Next question, not sewing related. Someone asked, I'd love to know the stories behind your favourite tattoo if you'd like to share. You may have noticed, if you've been here a while, I do have many tattoos. I have a whole armful on this side. You won't have seen it, but I've also got a fairly sizable tattoo on my foot, not my leg, as well. But my favourite one is actually my most recent one. I will see if I can get up and show you. Otherwise, if this doesn't work, I'll pop a picture in that the artist took after she'd done it, because it's probably better than my arm wiggling around in front of the screen. This is my most recent and now all-time favourite tattoo. This is a portrait of my dearly departed, beautiful Dalmatian who was called Freya. Now, sadly, we lost Freya about a year and a half ago, and I'm still incredibly sad about it. I don't think I'll ever get over it, honestly. We've both always been dog people. We both had dogs growing up, and about 11, 12 years ago we decided that we'd get a dog, and we actually got an adult dog that was needing to be rehomed. She was 5 at the time that she came to live with us, and she was beautiful and lovely and mostly well behaved, and she was just the absolute love of my life, and I miss her so much. I still have dreams about her. I am completely heartbroken still, and my husband is also. She was excellent. She did live to a really good age, particularly for a larger dog. Dalmatians, I think, on average, lived to about 12, and she was 15 when we lost her. We had to have her put to sleep because she got really poorly with something that just wasn't curable. And thankfully, she got to a ripe old age, and it was only... She just had a rapid decline over a couple of weeks. That was it. It was really fast. So mercifully, she didn't suffer for long. And there was one day where she just couldn't get up and didn't want to eat anything, and she looked really poorly and looked really sad, and the vet told us it was time. So it was very, very sad, and it took me a while to get to a point where I felt like I could immortalise her in ink on my arm, and I took a long time trying to decide the right artist to do it, because if you're going to get a portrait of someone that you know, or a pet or an animal that you know, and it's going to be on you forever, you want to make sure it's going to look like them and it's going to be a nice representation of them. So I hunted high and low, and actually the artist that I ended up getting it from, who actually specialises in animal portraits and does beautiful, beautiful things. I was actually really local to here. She's in Dorset. Her name is Rachel Sawtell Tattoo. I'll put details down below in case anybody is in the south of England and would like to get a tattoo in a similar vein. She's just brilliant, did just the sort of thing that I wanted. And when she showed me what she'd drawn up and the design that she'd come up with from the reference photo that I gave her, I nearly cried because I just thought it was so perfect. So that is my favourite. It may always be my favourite. But thanks for asking. I know tattoos aren't everybody's thing, but I really like them, and I'm glad I got that one. All right, so on a happier theme, I have decided I would like to thank this beautiful community here for coming to my channel, deciding you liked watching and listening to me enough to subscribe, which honestly still blows my mind. I think it's amazing and incredible, to be honest, and I'm really chuffed. But I would like to give something back, and a little celebratory giveaway is in order, I think. And out of my own pocket, I would like to give away to one of these wonderful subscribers a sewing or knitting pattern of your choosing, a PDF pattern. I'm going to buy this out of my own pocket. I'm not a rich lady. It's as much as I can afford at the moment. But if you would like a chance of winning this beautiful prize, I'd like you to put a comment down in the comments here on YouTube and let me know in your comment whether you are a sewer or a knitter or both. I suspect, given the questions that came up for this Q&A, that a lot of you are sewers. But I'm interested to know if there are people like me that do both. Also interested to know if there are people that are just here for the knitting. So please comment with which you are below, and then I'm gonna pick out randomly in, maybe not my next video, one after that, a future video. You'll have to watch them all now to see who's won. I'm gonna pick out a winner, and then I would like to purchase you a sewing or knitting pattern, PDF pattern of your choice. So get writing in the comments. Now, on with the questions. Very sewing related, as I said. I suspect most of you are sewers from the questions that we got. Another sewing one. Do you also sew on work days, or do you set aside a whole day for your projects? This is a really interesting question, and I get somewhat jealous when I see that people sort of get home from work and they cook a bit of tea and then they spend the evening like in their sewing room, and I don't do that. I get home from work utterly exhausted. I work in the control room. I'm a dispatcher in the ambulance service. And I sit staring and working on 5 screens at once as part of my job for 12 hours at a time. Do 12-hour shifts, and my commute is fairly long. So most days I am out the house for almost 14 hours on a time when I'm on shift. So by the time I get home, there's really enough time for like a shower, eat some dinner, and then I've maybe got an hour of like flopping on the sofa watching TV until I need to go to bed again because I've got to get up so early. So I just don't have the energy, wherewithal or time to do much on a work day. If anything, I might pick up my knitting and do a few rows while I've got the telly on, while I'm just winding down after dinner. But it's very, very rare that I would go and do anything in my sewing room. I'm just exhausted at that point. No time either. So it tends to always happen on my days off, and I have runs of like 4 or 5 shifts in a row, and then I get a few days off. So I kind of plan to get some sewing and knitting time in on those days off. Usually at least a couple of hours at a time is what I prefer, rather than little snippets of time. I like to sort of dedicate a chunk of time, and if I can get a whole day where I don't have to do any housework or not got any appointments to go to, not got other stuff to do, if I can get a whole day just like pottering about in my sewing room, I'm like happy as Larry. I think this might be the last question. And it's kind of related to the last one, actually. Do you prefer lone sewing or going to social sewing groups, for example? So I have never been to a social sewing group. I haven't really sewed alongside or with anybody before. It's not that I don't want to, but with the aforementioned work shifts and the fact that I work funny shift patterns and I work a lot of weekends and it's on a kind of 4-week rota. I don't have the same days off during the week or at weekends. So having the consistency to be able to go to a social sewing group on a regular basis and get to know people and socialise properly is kind of impossible with my work situation at the moment, and that does make me a little bit sad. But I try to make myself feel better by thinking, how much would I actually get done? As you can probably tell by the fact that I talk to you guys and waffle on for hours and hours in videos, I'm a chatter. I am known as like the chatty person at work, and I worry that I'd be so busy chatting that I wouldn't actually get much sewing done. And when I've got time to sew, I like to just be able to get something done and feel like I've accomplished something. So perhaps I'd just be far too busy socialising and not sewing enough. But I'm definitely not against the idea of giving it a go. It's just my work schedule makes it really difficult. So for now, when I'm in my sewing room, if I fancy a bit of chatter, I take my laptop upstairs, put something on YouTube, one of my fellow sewing vloggers, and I'll listen to what they've been making and what they're up to while I do my sewing, and it sort of feels like I've got a little sewing buddy there. I'm sure lots of people do that. I expect there's probably people now watching this whilst they're doing something on their sewing or knitting project, so I'm glad if I am providing that service for you. So that's all the questions we've got for now. If you have any other questions, wish me to clarify anything, please leave a comment down below. Like the video, YouTube likes that, and so do I. And if you'd like to enter the giveaway, please let me know. Are you a knitter, a sewer, or both? Or do you do other textile related crafts also? Are you a crocheter? I am quite tempted to pick up a hook and give that a go myself. I would love to know, and I will pick someone at random in a future video, and you can have a PDF pattern of your choice as my thank you for you sticking around and subscribing to the channel. I really am so grateful. Otherwise, I hope you have a good couple of weeks until I next upload a video. Enjoy all your crafting and making, whether you've got your own dedicated crafting room or not, and I'll see you next time.